Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
On Wednesday, the challenge and sport classes took to Barber and found themselves receiving a rude awakening. The elevation changes aren't the only steep aspect of this Alabama circuit. The learning curve is a doozy as well. It looks like the club and pro drivers will have to bring out their A game to produce good results today. We'll see who's got it as we get ready to watch Event 2 of Series 7 in the PCA Sim Racing Series presented by Hagerty Motorsports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Taylor Burris and Rachel Whiteford are reporting from pit lane. And up in the producer's booth, we have Ryan Bauer, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As always, the PCA Sim Racing Series is brought to you by Hagerty. Since 1984, Hagerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance. Everything they do is geared towards enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts and making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive, but thrive well into the future. Services include the Hagerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Hagerty, the shop, and much more to fuel car culture. Hagerty, let's drive together. Now, as we are about to see many of the drivers attempt to drive this track, before we get there, why don't we head to our track guide brought to you by the fine folks at the Global Sim Racing Channel. Welcome to Barber Motorsports Park. Located just east of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the newer circuits in American road racing. The track was built in 2003 by George Barber to go along with his Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which can be seen appropriately from Museum Corner on the track. While the main circuit is the full course, which includes 16 turns over roughly 2.25 miles, there are also two lesser used layouts called the Short A and Short B courses. The track is known for its technical layout and hugely dramatic elevation changes. In every category of racing, it carries a reputation of making overtakes difficult. That's not to say it's impossible, with most passes happening into Charlotte's Web. Named for the spider sculpture outside the hairpin, it often suckers drivers into braking too deep with a sudden drop just as you attempt to slow the car down. That's not the most challenging part of the circuit, though. Museum Corner is reminiscent of turns like the Corkscrew, with its blind entry, multiple apexes, and cliff-like plunge down a hill. IndyCar and IMSA have visited many times in the past decade, while motorcycle racing is also a regular staple here. Practice and precision are usually required to be able to find a fast lap, but there's a heavy dose of bravery also needed in a number of spots. Despite the track being very wide, accidents often collect multiple cars due to the lack of visibility over crests. All in all, this place proves tough to even seasoned veterans. But with the hillsides and trees providing beautiful natural viewing spaces and an immaculate facility, it's no wonder fans keep showing up in droves to watch the racing here. Well, DJ, here we see the track map, and while we got an overall view of the circuit, how do you think it'll work with these GT3R 911s?
Well, Joe, despite the fact that these cars may not have as much horsepower put into them as some of the open wheelers we've seen, or even the GTEs that we've seen run around here, it is still going to be a matter of patience for all of these Porsche drivers. So many of these corners are double apex long corners, and you've really got to be careful and deliberate getting onto the throttle pedal. You want to be late in when you do it, and you want to get it a little bit softly. Otherwise, which we saw on Wednesday night, it's a one-way ticket to send your car spinning around in a circle. Now, that said, because of the reduced downforce in these GT3s, we were able to see some good overtaking at some areas we may not have expected. We saw a little bit of moves going into turns 1 and down into the Alabama roller coaster because there's not that air wash coming off the back. The obvious overtaking zone going down into Charlotte's Web, always proving a good area. And we were also able to see some good passes going into that 12, 13, 14 complex. So we'll have to keep an eye for that. But the biggest thing about these drivers out here today is it's less of a battle, I think, between the other drivers, and it's more of a battle between yourself, the car, and the track.
Well, it certainly seemed to be the case that way earlier this week on Wednesday. We're in the midst of qualifying. It is a large field, but they've all got their own 10 minutes and 2 laps to try to put their quickest time in. Lacroix is our quickest right now on the provisional pole, but only by 12 thousandths of a second over Waldron. We're watching Travis Brody here, who is currently in 18th, but he's already finished both of his laps, and unfortunately, his second one was discounted. DJ, they have to be careful about the track limits around this place.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's some very easy areas to pick up a little bit of that runoff going down in a museum corner, that diving chicane. If you're not careful, you can get a little bit there where we see Brody going through right now. As a matter of fact, that's one of those areas, as well as a little bit of the runoff of Charlotte's Web. Also seen some off tracks get picked up going through 10 and 11, that high-speed chicane that Brody just made his way through. So there's plenty of areas that you can get a little bit offline, and if that happens in qualifying, it will discount your lap, so it's something drivers have to watch out for.
As we're waiting on Glenn Dennis to put a time down, this is across the line, I believe, to start his first flyer. Yes, so that one did not count. And I think he has enough time left. Yes, it looks like he should be able to put one on the board, as I see Mike Knighton just set one down in the 71, so he'll go to 45th position. Rachel, last night we had, a max of about 33 cars, I think, in our biggest race. Well, not last night, rather Wednesday night. With so many more cars here in this one, how much more important is the qualifying in today's race?
Well, it's going to be huge because this track is very difficult to pass at. We saw that on Wednesday. We saw how difficult it is to make track position, and we saw how congested it can get. This track is very narrow, and that makes things a lot more tricky for these guys. It's all about getting a good position early to make sure you're in prime position to really take advantage. And honestly, we're hoping it's a good race today, but we had some tricky starts in the last 2, so we'll have to see.
Exactly. This is Gregory once again along the backside of the course, and he is also on his first flyer. I think Glenn Dennis, and that one's not going to count for Gregory, unfortunately, but Dennis looked like he was clean from the time that we were following him, and indeed it was. It's a 23.3 for his first timed lap. So Gregory's the only one yet to set one. He'll get one last chance to make that stick, DJ.
Yes, he will, and here he goes up and over that blind turn of 4. He's really got to make sure he gets this right. He's going to want to try to maximize as much as he can. Let's watch him here through Charlotte's Web, keeping a nice narrow line all the way through that. There are a couple of different options you can take through there. I've seen some drivers really diamond off that corner, and some drivers taking that narrow line. Let's see how he handles Museum Corner there. Big chunk of the curve, able to get it down into 9 and power away. Looks like this is a pretty good lap here for Glenn Dennis.
Not to rub salt in the wound, Taylor, DJ, and I have the nice comfy air conditioning in here, but you and Rachel down on pit lane, you guys know the weather a little bit better. What's it looking like out there?
Well, taking a look at the weather right now, it is an 80 degrees with the air temperature, but the track temperature increasingly rising up to 95 degrees, and it's only going to get hotter as the sun continues to rise up here during today's race. Winds are coming out of the northwest at 5 miles an hour, so not a whole lot is going to be affecting these cars too much, but those track temperatures, it's going to get hot, it's going to get slick. It's going to be a little bit difficult for some drivers with their tire grip, especially heading into the hard braking zones.
And Glenn Dennis just snagged the pole away from Lacroix by 1,000th of a second. Do we have enough time for Gregory? I think the 218 is getting ready to come across the line just as we're about done. We've got 20 seconds, so he should get one in here. Let's see if we get all 47 cars on the board. We do. It's a 24-3. And that will put him into 33rd. So that is definitely a nice gain as opposed to starting dead last on the field. And with that being qualifying over, that means it's time to head over to our championship. Of course, starting with our club drivers here, which we are getting ready to watch. And as we pull those points up after the first round today, you can see Nikki Chan currently leads the way with the win from last event, excuse me. But it's only a 2-point margin between Nikki and Edward Nelson. And it remains quite tight through much of the field here after the first event has finished. So as we now head into warm-up, the drivers get a little bit more practice to work their way through. And I believe, Taylor, you have a driver spotlight for today?
Yeah, we certainly do. That's going to be Austin Puckett, who is out on the circuit right now, having a great run as he makes his debut with the PCA this season. Of course, Austin Puckett, as we look at him on the timing and scoring, is going to have a good qualifying effort, but from the Colorado region, and in fact, he will be one of our camera drivers who will be out on the track later on here tonight. But he's been on and off sim racing for about 20 years, and he's here recently with the PCA. He's actually an instructor as well as competes in the track day events up in his hometown in Colorado Springs.
And as we wait for that clock to tick down to get off to the race session, it'll be interesting to see what Dennis can do over Lacroix, since it looks like they're so evenly matched. And Rachel was talking about it, DJ, how hard it is to pass here. I kind of wonder, with so many cars, will he maybe have to look for something in traffic?
I think that may be the way to get by, Joe. You know, this may end up shaping out a little bit like a multi-class race, especially if we start to come up behind on some lapped cars, looking for those picks that we often see when we've got prototypes or GTEs or GT3s out on the circuit. So that may be the way to get by. Also selling some moves down into different areas where you don't normally expect a pass. We saw a little bit of that going down into 12 and 13 last time, that was an area where drivers were really able to launch a sneak attack. And we may see that again here today.
So let's see if anybody has got their head on a swivel, be able to watch out for those sort of moves. I think we've got about 2.5 minutes left to go, so still plenty of chances to try and get out there and get whatever practice you feel like you still need. Here is Austin Puckett now on your screen. We got a couple drivers with onboards today, so should give us some fun views, as we saw plenty of them last week, of course, over at Silverstone. But with all the elevation change and all the craziness that we've experienced so far, maybe we'll get a little bit more emotion out of some of the drivers as that green and purple machine works its way around that final little carousel down on the front stretch once again, and heading back around. This has been definitely one I've been enjoying, because it's one of my favorite tracks, if not the favorite track of mine here on iRacing. Little bit less used on most series schedules, but glad to see it show up here, even though it has proved quite a jump for our drivers. Looks like Jeff C. currently our quickest in the warm-up, with Albie Blanco following him. And we see Randall Ayers as one of our other drivers with an onboard in the 83 right now, weaving through the back portion of the course on the lowest part of the circuit with those two sets of S's. And then this seemed to be the real trouble zone here, DJ. Turn 13. So many cars went off last time.
Yeah, very, very easy to run a little bit wide there. 313 after the kink of 12. You just barely misjudge that braking zone. The car runs a little bit wide, and they'll send you right on out to the outside. So drivers are going to have to be very, very careful there. There's a lot of off-camber corners around here that are just begging to catch some of these Porsches out.
Certainly is. There's so much variety in such a rather short track in terms of length, but it is certainly time for us to give a little bit of a shout out to our sponsor for the Club Series, and of course that is Michelin. Michelin is the presenting partner for the Club class in 2021, as well as the official tire of IMSA. They also manufacture and sell tires for every type of vehicle, including airplanes, automobiles, bicycles, earth movers, farm equipment, heavy-duty trucks, and motorcycles. Michelin also offers a full range of innovative services and solutions that help make mobility safer, more efficient, and more environmentally friendly. Find more about Michelin at michelinman.com. Huge thank you to them for helping make this possible. But that now takes us to our starting grid. And Glenn Dennis, as we covered earlier, managed to take that pole position over Lacroix, who will start next to him. Will Waldron will be P3, as Ed Nelson will start from 4th. James Hayosh will be P5. His outside will have Daniel Rubel there. It's Jeff C. starting from 7th. Ergun Guralp will be 8th, and Nikki Chan, last round's winner, starts from all the way down to 9th. Ambrosino will round out your top 10.
Starting off at 11th, it'll be James Sue, followed by Brett Holmes, with Austin Bucket and Matt Dialosa lining up in 14th. 15th is Stephen Kemp, followed by John Montgomery and Jeremy Mazzariello in 17th. Cliff Kayer is 18th, followed by Travis Brody, and rounding out your top 20 is Michael Patterson.
Klaus Nielsen will be starting from 21st, as Mario Gonzalez will be in 22nd. Next row has Bruce Robinson to the inside with Road Heaver to the outside. Road Heaver going to be another one of our onboards. Tamer Avaga will be in 25th, as Korzeniowski will be 26th. And you've got Wen in the 27th spot, followed by Andrew Ellison in 28th. That next row on the slide here is Randall Ayers and Curtis Krumel in 29th and 30th.
31st is John Martin, followed by Peter Sigourney, with J.R. Gregory and Kevin Douglas behind then. Albie Blanco will be 35th, followed by Lyle Eddy, with Kevin Heyman, and Robert Cottle lining up in the row behind them. Paul Meadow lines up 39th, and Patrick Gill will be 40th.
Then it's Ivan Gomez, 41st, Chris Szabo in 42nd, Terrence Tong, 43rd, and Ken Eskridge in 44th position. Last three, Markadakis, Knighton, and McNeil, rounding out your 47 drivers here today. And the field is so long that the pace car is already well out of Charlotte's Web. The other cars are just barely getting over the crest heading into that corner. So this is going to be a full house on our circuit today, no doubt. Well, we got a little bit of time. Why don't we have a little bit of fun, play some, not actual bets, but put some bets on who we think is going to win out there. I'll start with DJ. After what we saw from last week, who have you got your eye on?
Well, after what I saw from last week and what I was seeing during the practice, I've got a little bit of a sleeper here. I'm looking at P7 Jeff C. He was in the top 3 during practice, and he was top of that warm-up. I think that 34 machine may have a little something to show here.
Rachel?
Gotta go with my boy Glenn Dennis. He's proven last season to be very, very strong. But Lacroix and Waldron, two huge competitors. But something's got me voting Dennis.
Yeah, I like that feeling. What about you, Taylor?
I'm going to go with someone a little further back inside the top 10. I'm going to go with the 981 of Nikki Chan. Always able to pull out some surprise victories we saw happening at Motorsport last series. But I think he can maybe see what he can do tonight at Barber.
Well, now it goes to Glenn Dennis, who is waiting for the green flag. In control of the field here. Pace car is in. They were giving very strict instructions for this one to make sure they had to wait. No jump starts. here as the green flag waves, and Glenn is on it, but he is not well ahead of Lacroix. He starts to pull alongside him as they come down into the first corner, and he's going to go clear around the outside. That'll give the inside into the Alabama roller coaster. He's got the lead away in the first couple turns as we have a little bit of a checkup and back, but I'm seeing no huge incidents.
No, nothing big happening down through the Alabama roller coaster. You can see all of those cars just funneling 2, 3 wide as now they make their way back up the hill as we're side by side out front. Dennis and Lacroix going at it into Charlotte's Web.
Dennis is not taking this one sitting down. He tries to snatch that back, but a little bit of overlap with Robert to his inside coming into Museum Corner, and now he switches back into the racing line. So isn't willing to go that risky into that corner here on the first lap. In fact, pretty much everybody going in single file there until way back in the field.
Yeah, nobody really wanting to get too aggressive here. I've got to say kudos to these drivers. They saw the kerfluffles that happened in the earlier races, and they want to avoid that as much as possible. Right on board here with the 12th place of Travis Brody. He is currently up 5 spots from his starting position, making a great run here early on.
So Brody still looking to see what he can do from here as we now come into the final portion of the lap. Dennis has a gap of about half a second over Lacroix, who's another half second ahead of Waldron. They're spacing out up at the front, and despite a few hiccups, this definitely seemed quite a bit cleaner than what we witnessed in Sport and Challenge, so the club guys have stepped up their game. We watched it from Dennis's rear bumper here. You can see how much he's put between himself and Lacroix. I see Hayosh under attack behind them. No, excuse me, that's Nelson under attack from James Hayosh, actually, as they're going to go side by side, very close off the corner, having to get out of it so that he doesn't contact the 14.
And it's very easy to run wide there, so a good call from Hayosh, not making that move on Ed Nelson. They now dive down into the museum corner. Very important to get a good run there. It looks like Hayosh didn't get the best of runs. Nelson's going to be able to hold a little bit of an advantage as they go down through these sweepers of 10 and 11. Big chunk of the curve there for Nelson.
Got to be careful with that. I hate to see a driver spin it in front of the whole field here because they are still quite tight throughout. And it sounds like Taylor's had a chance to review some of the footage of the first lap. Taylor, what happened down there into turn 1?
Well, the first incident happened with Tama Albaga making some contact with a couple of cars, taking it 3 wide into turn 1. The second big incident that happened was Cliff Kayer trying to get into the braking zone. The car just got out from underneath him, was unable to regain control of the car, and makes hard contact with Brett Holmes, collecting a couple of more cars in that tight hairpin of turn number 3. So it's a tough break for some of these drivers who are strong competitors.
On screen, we have a wreck on the front stretch. I'm trying to make out who this is. One car nearly climbing up over the wall. Now, that is Waldron, who I was about to report, lost his 3rd place in turn 14. And it appears he found yet more uneasiness there coming out of the final corner. Here, I think, is the incident. Yeah, so this is going to be after these next couple corners.
All right, so this is Waldron's incident here. Clips the grass on the entrance there, and that sends him spinning around. He's able to get off to the inside, and all the drivers are able to avoid him. I think in terms of coming onto the main straight, that may have just been a little bit of an issue of one of the drivers just catching a little bit of too much curb and upsetting the car.
I have some bad news on that. I just watched, and it's Albie Blanco making contact with Waldron. He also got... it looks like Elsom involved, and Dialosa have found themselves with damage from that little bit of contact. In the meantime, it is still Dennis leading Lacroix, with now Ed Nelson promoted into the 3rd position, but looking like he's dropping back slightly.
Yeah, Nelson just looking a little bit slow here, not quite able to get up to where he'd like. James Hayosh certainly is going to be noticing that and trying to close in on the back the best that he can. That yellow and black machine up the road is Robert Lacroix, so he's going to be trying to get there. I also have to say it looks like there's a little bit of a train starting to form behind James Hayosh.
This is Road Heaver. I mentioned earlier he was going to give us some view, so there you see his triple screen setup. Ahead of him is Nielsen in the 04, as that trio up there is fighting for the 10th position. Ambrosino currently holds that spot with Brody sandwiched in between.
Yeah, Hayash just trying to close in on the back the best that he can. There is Ambrosino as they make the dive down into Museum Corner. You can see a little bit of the train starting to form behind him. These battles getting very, very tight. Nobody wanting to make too much of a crazy move here as they know the consequences for getting offline here at Barber.
It sounds like Taylor's got some information on Roadheaver. Taylor, what's the scoop?
Yeah, Jared, Roadheaver is actually currently our biggest mover of the race. There you see with the onboard camera. He started in the 24th position, has climbed his way up into the top 15 with that strong performance, as well as avoiding the incidents in the opening stages. Roadheaver has been a strong competitor for the past few seasons in PCA. Not really the strongest in qualifying, but towards the end of the run, he does find his way to get those top 10s and top 10, 15 finishes since he races in the PCA and does quite extremely well. So keep an eye on him to see if he can sneak his way up maybe to a top 5.
Now, this is some serious inroads with only 5 laps into it. We hop on board with Travis Brody now with a new amusing shirt. It is I'm huge in Japan, it looks like, is what he's telling us this time.
Well, we'll have to see if that is true or not, but Brody has a rear mirror full of the number 40, trying to hold him off a little bit. Big breath there from Brody. I think he was a little bit nervous coming through Charlotte's Web that he was going to get hit by a dive bomb.
Maybe Brody is just secretly David Hasselhoff, and that's what he's alluding to as we watch them down through Museum Corner. And Aaron Ambrosino leads them all. Brody sandwiched still between Ambrosino and Nielsen, but they're starting to be caught by Roadheaver, and with the progress that he's made, I'm sure he'd be ready to try and dispatch a few more cars.
Yeah, that's the car I'd be very worried about, Joe. We've seen the progress that Roadheaver made both in this race and the last one. Very good. A little bit of a wide line there. That's going to bring some better speed coming through the exit of 14 as they come down now into that final corner in turn 16 onto the pit start finish straight. Good little run there. Not quite enough, I think, to be able to make the move going into turn 1, but it's certainly going to put pressure, and sometimes that pressure can lead to just enough to be able to make the move happen.
So there was enough mistakes on Wednesday that I'm pretty certain there will be some drivers that can try and squeeze something from the stone of those ahead of them. Now we jump a little bit farther back to 21st. Randall Ayers in the middle of 7 cars right here in a train. It's led by Wen, Martin, Robinson. Then there's Ayers smack dab in the middle of it. You've got J.R. Gregory, Edie, and Waldron on his comeback drive.
Yeah, they're all trying to get it there. Randall, you see just how far he is looking through that corner as there was a car off in front of him there. You can see a little bit of the smoke from that car. And Taylor, I think you've got some information for us on the driver of the 83.
Yeah, Randall Ayers has been sim racing on iRacing for the past 3 years. 2 years have been in competition with the PCA, of course, from the Pacific Northwest Region Club, as he is having a strong performance, working his way up through the field. And one of the things that he has enjoyed with the PCA is the track time with these sessions and the PCA's EDE, or driver educational programs that they have to help train these drivers to be better sim racing competitors. And it's helped him to grow to be a better driver throughout the season, and even in the iRacing world, to where he's able to work his way up through the special rankings that are on the iRacing service.
So he comes out of the final corner. Rachel, I'm going to make a comparison that I'm sure is going to amuse some, but this kind of reminds me a bit of dirt oval racing in a way. These drivers, as Hayash is going to send one down to the inside, nearly making contact there with our third place driver of Nelson. And they're going to have a dash to the line here, trying to get to Museum Corner first. Inside going to Nelson. Neither one willing to give up, but Hayash eventually has to give up the ghost. Oh, but he gets another little mistake out of Nelson coming off the corner, and nothing doing. So battle finally done. I can get to what I was talking about. Rachel, it almost reminds me of heat races and dirt oval racing. These drivers have had a chance to watch from Wednesday night. Do you feel like there's much to be garnered from hopping onto the broadcast or into the session and watching to see what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the guys in Pro, for example, and of course here in Club, are what we'd say are the more advanced, faster drivers, and how you do that is not just by practicing, it's also by watching how other people do it. So I can guarantee they were watching the other races. I can guarantee they were looking at the information from it, because whilst it's a track they've all driven quite a bit, they also want to see a tone of how the racing in general is behaving, because we do tend to see similar trends go between all 4 races in the PCA, and these guys are going to want to know what a busy track like this is like. And I mean, you say that's the comparison to dirt oval is the heat racing, but frankly, it's also tiny track full of cars, and at some point somebody will probably drive a quad bike across it.
Yeah, it's true. And they actually have some, I believe, some dirt tracks around here for motorbikes and things like that. So that should be fun if we could get that on iRacing eventually. We've been watching from 11th with Brody still hassling Ambrosino just in front of him. They're starting to gain on Geralt in the 36. I think the laps have been mildly quicker than that 36 car. I have to double check and see. And yeah, a couple laps ago, Ambrosino did catch him by about 0.3.
Yes, we're seeing that really start to develop across the field, Joe, whereas last time out around this portion in the race, we started seeing triplets or so break out in the course of the field. In this race here tonight, it is much more of a story of trains developing. We've got a train from first really all the way back into 7th, and then again, the train that we're currently watching from 8 all the way back to about 14th.
So that nature of being difficult to pass is making life interesting for a number of them. Back to bucket once again. Austin just behind Gilles and Went. And that number 26 started this race from the 27th spot. And he is up many since the start, though he had some problems. I'm kind of surprised at how many have had as good of inroads as they've had. We've only lost Holmes, Mazziarello, Dialosa, and Zabo so far.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be the only ones, as we saw it last time out, that this track, while not necessarily abrasive, it just takes it out of you physically and mentally. And so as the time goes along, we'll see a little bit more slips here and there from the drivers. But we watch here, this is the quad keeping up good pace with Glenn Dennis, really hounding that number 20 for the lead.
Down and onto the front stretch yet again, and no pit stops here today like we saw last week at Silverstone. If you didn't watch before on Wednesday, they are going straight through in all 45 minutes in both races here tonight, both the pros and the club class, which also, speaking of which, don't forget to stay tuned after this race, because there is yet one more to come, and it is going to be fun to watch for sure. Ambrosino yet again giving us the view from the roof and getting ever close behind him. Brody and Nielsen are closing that gap. I wonder if they could have a shot down into Charlotte's Web. Travis is going to take a little peek. He's going to try and send it to the inside. He gets the overlap down at the curb, but he runs into the side of his rival. Ambrosino has to give way. It was a little nudge. Was it Rubbin was racing, or was that a little too rough for the stewards?
I'd say that's Rubbin's racing, but there goes the 0-4 on through as well. Klaus Nielsen being able to make the move onto that straightaway before Museum Corner. You know, that wasn't too much of a dive bomb there, Joe, where you saw Brody really just like having to hip check Ambrosino out of the way. That was just a little bit of tough battling there. I don't see that as a problem. I'd call that a racing incident, but we'll let the stewards decide.
Yeah, it seemed fair from my end, but that's not our call. So we'll see how they apply the rules of this series. Watching them now come up and around through the final carousel of the lap. Still being led by James Sue at the front of this group in the 45. As he comes across to start lap 10 now.
Yeah, so all drivers working on lap 10, about 10 minutes left to, 10 minutes down rather in this race. Sue leading that train. We jump back here though. This is Ed Nelson. So that battle up for the podium position still very hotly contended. Robert Lacroix only about a half a second back of Glenn Dennis. Nelson doing a good job to close in the gap on the 64.
Oh, we've had a problem with the 26. This was at the front of one of our groups just moments ago, and I think it was Austin Bucket making some contact. John Martin had some as well. You can see Wen coming back to the circuit, causing an opportunity near him.
Yeah, that was a little close to an unsafe release, but we're going to check out this replay here very quickly. This is when diving down into turn one. See the car's a little bit squirrely there, goes in, just gets a little bit of help from behind, and that's going to send him right around off into the kitty litter.
That battle that we saw was Ivan Gomez and Terrace Tong, as well as Wen was returning to the track, but Ivan was playing defense and successfully held that position. We've gotten an update from the stewards. To quote a movie, "Let them fight," they said.
Indeed, no action there on that move down into Charlotte's Web. We may see a little bit of action here starting to take place. That is James Hayosh coming on the back of Ed Nilsson. Hayosh trying to carry as much momentum as he can over that rising turn 4. Not going to make a move there, but that was Ed Nilsson either going defensive or offensive there. It's a little bit hard to tell with as close as these cars are running.
Ooh, another driver giving up positions with a mistake. Ambrosino down to 14th. Now this one did not involve contact, spinning out of turn 1. So I wonder if that's replacing turn 13 this time, because we haven't seen too many cars off there, but we've now had multiple spins down into that first diving left-hander.
Yeah, we have indeed, and track temperatures are a little bit hotter than we saw when we were here last time. Track temp's about 92 degrees Fahrenheit, so that may be an issue of just overcooking the rear tires a little bit and not getting enough grip going into that first corner.
Watching from Brody, he's still well within range of Geralt, as Argun has started this one from 8th. He's down one position, doesn't want to give up one more. A little bit wide there from Brody, trying to square off the corner, but he made himself vulnerable. Nielsen nearly got to his inside.
Nearly did, but able to hold it off there a little bit. Here comes Brody, though, up the inside of Oregon. He's going to make the move into turn 1. I think he's got it held. No attack back, and bada bing, move Travis Brody up a position.
Yep, Orgun didn't have the pipes that time, so the 36 now falls down to 10th. Travis into 9th.
And Travis will be happy with that. That'll bring his moving up total all the way to 10th. As we watch Jarrett Rodeheaver thinking about maybe sending a little move down on the 04 of Klaus Nielsen. Remember, Nielsen had a little bit of a problem earlier on that saw him fall back a few positions. Rodeheaver not sending it all the way down into Charlotte's Web. It's going to be too far back for an attack here in the museum corner, but he is definitely applying pressure to that purple 04.
And if they start fighting, don't forget about Stephen Kemp, who's only back by about a second. So that could make it yet another car getting involved. Travis Brody, though, is off like a shot. You can see he is way up there already and set his sights on Sue.
Yes, he has. So Brody very clearly being held up there a little bit, trying to close it.
And Sue goes around! Oh, no. Multiple cars making contact. Nielsen, one of them. Geralt got involved. And just woeing up in time, Kemp slammed on the brakes, managed to avoid contact, though he did lose a little time having to go so slow. Here's the replay of the incident. Watch for the 37 car to come across.
Yeah, you see Sue got a little bit sideways there going into turn 12 and then touches the grass. Oh, it just didn't hold the brakes, Joe.
Well, I spoke too soon about turn 13, unfortunately. Unlucky number 13 bites again.
Yes, it does. But we ride back in that battle for the top 3 as this continues to be insanely close, as it looks like right now, looking at this, Glenn Dennis and Jeff C., 1st to 5th, separated only by about a second and a half. This battle is intense.
Up and over the turn that has been the problem turn for much of the week. Oh, and a car is coming back on track just in front of him. Great heads up for everybody to avoid that. That was Patterson, who was trying and eventually made it into pit lane. That could have been so much worse, but thankfully nobody went off. Nobody had any sort of damage.
No, and it looked like there that Glenn Dennis was able to handle that a little bit better, able to grow the gap back to Robert LaCroix a little bit. Ed Nelson doing a good job as well. James Hayash, oh, we've got somebody spinning off in the back.
That was C. That was C, unfortunately, also falling victim to turn 1. Touching a little bit of the grass, and the 34 car just sails off into the Armco.
You know, Joe, I talked about it in the beginning of this, that you've got to be very careful and patient on it. And we're seeing the skill level rising with these drivers. We're not seeing the sort of lazy spins that we saw in some of the earlier races in the lower classes for the PCA here. This is all drivers pushing these cars to the limit, absolutely seeing what they can get and running a little bit wide and getting up onto the grass. It's not a lot of, let us call, self spins where you're mishandling the car. It's a matter of pushing over the edge of grip and adhesion.
Here's our 4 onboards today of our various drivers, all very focused right now. It's always interesting because you never see yourself racing, or at least I usually don't. And I have no idea how intense we look at the time. But back to the racing on the track. We're looking at Cottle on the screen. That's been a couple bad rejoins between Wednesday evening, Rachel, and now tonight. We often will talk about the F3 box. Those who aren't on iRacing might not understand what we're talking about. Tell us a little bit about the tools that these drivers have to avoid those incidents.
Okay, so basically, the F3 box, you have F keys which can let you go through various functions within iRacing. Now, F3 is the relative. What the relative gives you is your position, and it shows you a list of drivers ahead of and behind you. Now, there'll be different colors, whether they're on your lap, or a lap down, or about to lap you, giving you information that you really need to have on the track that realistically you would get from your spotter or your team. So the relative box there is the driver's second mirror. So when they say, oh, I didn't see you, yeah, they usually did, because it's the one thing you keep your eye on like a hawk in iRacing. It is seeing exactly how far away people are, what the gaps are like, and it does give you time gaps to those cars. Now, apart from that, drivers have the ability to basically call their pit chief, or their crew chief, in the pits. There we go. English, I promise. And they can use F4 and 5 to go through various settings and options they want changed during a pit stop. What do you want on that stop? Fuel only? Tires only? How much fuel? You get to also see the last set of tires that came off the car and their relative percentages of grip remaining on them after you've had them taken off in the pits. You can also change a few settings on the car depending on what vehicle it is. So realistically, you get a ton of options in a way that really correlates with what you could do with a real race car at a track, talking over that two-way radio. It's just behind buttons here in iRacing, of course. Now, if you actually have a real spotter, the cool feature here, if you actually have a human spotter in iRacing, they could take over as your crew chief and do all that stuff for you. Which literally means all you have to do is drive.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the real pros can focus on, which can be such a boon. I can imagine with pressure like we're seeing here, because Nikki Chan, last event's winner, is still sitting in 5th, but has been experiencing a little bit of the 33 in his mirrors for some time. Taylor, I believe you've got a little bit of info on the Canadian?
Yeah, Nicky Chan, of course, from the Upper Canada region. Of course, we know him from winning the last round at Silverstone, as well as winning at Motorsport from Series 6. He's been sim racing for about 2 years now, competing in the PCA for only about 1 year. But the Toronto-based driver has had an enjoyable time competing in the PCA. But one of the funny things that he always tries to look forward to, if he ever has a bad race, within 15 minutes after a DNF or after a bad finishing result, he'll go and give himself a little bit of ice cream to help him improve on finishing for the next race. So I think the ice cream has come into play big time for him when competing, since he won the race at Silverstone and he's now running in the top 5 here tonight at Barber.
Depending on your side of the pond, you're either now immediately thinking of Harry Hogg or Kimi Räikkönen. Take your pick and try to, if you don't know what I'm referring to, try and connect those two in some form or fashion as we continue to watch him give chase. Now starting to gain on Sue. This is a lapped car, and it's actually causing some distance between himself and Nelson, who's the next one up.
Yeah, it certainly is. That is one of the things that we talked about a little here earlier on here, Joe, is some of that lapped traffic that can cause a bit of chaos here. Be interesting to see if any of these drivers choose to use those lapped cars as a pick, maybe try to get a good move going in and out here.
Seeing the 44 slipping down the order. He's getting, I think, a drive-through penalty, it looks like. Yeah, he did not stop, as we just had some contact there. Things getting extremely tight for the lead. Lacroix getting into the rear bumper of Glenn Dennis, as he did not like how slow he was going through 15.
No, he did not, and forced to check up a little bit. That may give James Hayosh a little bit of an opportunity here. You see a little bit of a wider run there out of turn 3 from Hayosh. He's going to be able to tuck up behind LaCroix right here. Let's see. LaCroix goes a little bit defensive. Hayosh is going to have to go the long way around. They're side by side. He's looking for a crossover, but Hayosh not able to get it done there. Some good run out of the corner, but too far back.
Dennis is enjoying that because that's given him lots of wiggle room now. And if Hayosh continues to try and make attempts, that'll slow everybody up in this next group, including Ed Nelson, stuck behind them with really no place to find a way through, it seems.
And remember, these two have gone back and forth a little bit, so it's a battle to keep an eye on. Very evenly matched in terms of pace.
Well, and that means that it's now time to bring you the Midway Race Report, brought to you by Michelin. Michelin is the presenting partner for the club class in 2021, as well as the official tire of IMSA. They also manufacture and sell tires for every type of vehicle, including airplanes, automobiles, bicycles, earth movers, farm equipment, heavy-duty trucks, and motorcycles. Michelin also offers a full range of innovative services and solutions that help make mobility safer, more efficient, and environmentally friendly. Find more about Michelin at michelinman.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much. And just to warn you all, I have the hiccups, so this is going to be fun. Out front is Glenn Dennis from the Potomac region, car 20 from zone number 2. He started on pole and is still running on pole. Second place is James Hayosh from the southeast Michigan region of zone 4. The 22 car started second, running second. Let's see how many I can get through before this happens again. P3 is switched around. We just got over LaCroix up into second, sorry. Hayosh is in third. We just missed him actually at Rensport region zone number 1, the 64 car. Now to P4, Ed Nelson, the Pacific Northwest region of zone number 6. 14 car started in 4th, currently running in 4th, and they're making fun of me behind my back. 5th place is Nicky Chan, Canadian driver from the Upper Canada region of Zone 1 in the 981. Started in 9th and is up to 5th, so that's our biggest mover in the top 5, and not quite top 10 though, we've got some big ones coming. P6 is Daniel Rubel from the Rising Delta region of Zone number 2. The 33 car is started 6th, running 6th. 7th is Jeff C. He had that bit of a moment earlier. He's running 7th, started 7th in that 34 car from the High Desert region of zone number 6. Then it's Travis Brody, who started 19th, running in 8th place right now, which is crazy. The Palmetto region zone number 3 driver there. He says he's huge in Japan. I am not going to question that statement or look for its origin. P number 9 is the biggest mover so far in the top 10. Started 24th, Jared Roadheaver up in 9th, the Rice and Delta region, zone number 2 driver there, with, I might say, amazing hair in that 982 machine. 10th place is Stephen Kemp from the Nordstone region of zone number 10. The 37 car started in 15th and is currently running 10th. Taylor has your next cars.
We'll try not to have any hiccup situations on this run of 10, but Aaron Ambrosino is from the Hudson Champlain region. He started in 10th, has lost 1 spot since the start of this race. The car 08 is working his way through the museum corner. In 12th position, he started 33rd, a big-time gain for the Falcon livery car of J.R. Gregory from the Oregon region, as he is in a heated battle for position as he works his way through and trying to hold off the next car behind him in P13. That is Robert Cottle, who started in the 38th position. So he was able to avoid all the incidents that happened early on and having a strong run in his Porsche. P14, another big mover, is Lyle Eddy from the, of course, Pacific Northwest region. Lyle, of course, started in the 36th position and having a strong run here in the second half of the race. Next up is Randall Ayers, started 29th, is running in the 15th position. The Pacific Northwest driver, looking calm, cool, and collective, trying to bring home another strong finish here in the PCA. 16th, he hasn't gained, he hasn't lost, but John Montgomery just running consistently from the Up Canada region in that beautiful blue and black stripe number 69 Porsche. Next up, he started in 40th position, now has moved up to 17th, the Central Wisconsin region driver of Patrick Gilles in the 111 in that yellow Porsche, as he works his way through the final few corners, trying to see if he can gain an extra spot or two. Currently running in the 18th position from the Maverick region is Ivan Gomez, started in 41st position, another big mover here, working his way inside the top 20. Currently running in the 19th position, he started in 43rd position, is Terrence Tong from the Upper Canada region, one of our biggest regions competing in the PCA this series, as he comes out of the final few corners. Rounding out your top 20, it's Greek Lightning, Metropolitan New York region's driver George Markadakis in the Pegasus Racing Porsche, has started in 45th, has moved up into the top 20, a strong performance by Greek Lightning. Rachel?
Man, I want to read Greek Lightning. Ogren Gerlach is in 21st, Rally Sport region of zone number 4. Not been a great day for him today. He started 8th, currently running 21st there in that 36 machine. 22nd, up 22 places. This is a really nice number set for me, actually. Feels really smooth there. 44 to 22nd. Ken Eskridge, the Heart of Dixie region, zone number 3, in that car number 2. Something is definitely working for him. He is on an absolute stride. 23rd place is Mario Gonzalez from the Hill Country region, zone number 5. The 777 machine is actually down 1 place from where he started in 22nd. 25th is Tama Elbaga, who started in 25th and is currently running in 23rd. The Rice and Dirt region driver in the 043 is running a pretty good race so far. 24th place tonight will be Ken Eskridge. We just covered him a second ago. And 25th place will be, I believe, Robert McNeil, Three Rivers region, zone number 3 there. The 3 cars, last lap was a 1:25.611, so he's making a move here, trying to recover some speed, but he is actually up from 47th to 26th. That is big movement for him. 27th is Curtis Crummell. Crummell from the Carolinas region, that 41 machine, a very, very, very purple Porsche. Try saying that rapidly many, many times. Purple Porsche, purple Porsche. I can't even do it. Up from 30th down to 27th, and I think he has a face on his car. Unusual. 28th is Paul Netto. He's our first car 1 lap down. The Upper Canada region driver from zone number 1, the 44 machine there. The Motul machine, putting a good run in. 39th up to 28th. 29th is going to be Austin Bucket. We've got his camera there looking very concentrated, just like Orange Juice. Down from 13th to 29th currently. Austin is from the Alpine Mountain region of zone number 9, and for some reason, every time I look at his camera, I see John Cena. So maybe we can't see him. The camera's gone. There you go. You can't see him anymore. 30th, James Sue from the Upper Canada region of zone number 1. The 45 machine is currently down from 11th place, running in 30th after a big, big spin earlier. And it's not been his day.
Same thing with another driver, Will Waldron. He started in 3rd. He now runs in 31st position. The Hudson Champlain region driver in that number 21 Porsche, trying to see if he can find any way to recover. If not, he might need to get some ice cream from Nicky Chan after this race is over with. In the 32nd position is going to be Kevin Douglas from the Recent Total region. Zone number 2, he started in 34th, has gained 2 spots since the start of today's race. 33rd, the first car 2 laps down, John Martin in that nice livery of a white, green, and yellow Porsche. Car number 19 from the Upper Canada region, as he has gained a couple of spots, or lost a couple of spots since the start of the race after starting 31st. 34th position is none other than Mike Knighton from the Shonen Shine region in the red, white, and blue Porsche as he works his way through, trying to get another strong performance here in the late stages. 35th position is Kevin Hammond from the Gold Coast region. Car 247, after starting in the 37th spot, has gained a couple of spots since the start of today's race. 36th position is Michael Patterson, as we see him in his silver and purple Porsche from the Longhorn region in a very intense battle by the looks of it as he works his way through. The car behind him that is battling with him is Jillian Nguyen in the 37th position right behind him. A good battle as the Upper Canada region driver tries to recover after some small mistakes early on. 38th position goes to Albie Blanco. Had some trouble early on. The Carolinas region driver working his way through in that beautiful, almost a kind of a Rothmans Porsche similarity design with that beautiful paint scheme in the 911, the number that all PCA members want to try to drive in this race. As we watch on later in the field, 39th position is going to be Peter Sigourney in the Flying Lizards Motorsports Porsche, another famous livery, as we see him working his way through from the Northeast region, zone number 1, as trying to get a decent recovery late in the stages. Rounding, and the last car out on the racetrack, going a little off-roading, the Northern Ohio driver of Bruce Robinson. Of course, Porsches were known for their rally racing back in the day, so he's just continuing on the tradition of rally racing, and Porsche car 386 will be the last car on the track.
This concludes tonight's Midway Race Report, brought to you by Michelin. Thank you, Taylor and Rachel. Hiccups, of course, notwithstanding, as we have been continuing on with the racing, and there have been some big developments. Those of you who have been watching the tower may notice that we're missing a couple there in the top 5. Well, unfortunately, Lacroix had some contact with Hayosh. Lacroix got the worst of it and got damaged. Hayosh got a black flag out of it. So Ed Nelson gets promoted to second. He has since, DJ, been continuing to pressurize the 20.
He certainly has. He's got that gap under and hovering at around about half a second right there as they get by Robert McNeil, some lap traffic. And that is really starting to turn into the story of the race as we tick down under 10 minutes to go here. The lap traffic for these leaders proving very, very tricky to get by.
I believe it was Rachel who made the call on Glenn Dennis at the start. We're placing our bets, and so far it's looking pretty good, but Nelson is going to try and see if he can do something about that, having started this race from 4th, just on the outside of that second row. Hasn't fallen victim to many of the pitfalls that this track has thrown up.
No, he has not. Neither of these drivers have really fallen victim to any of them, but driving very, very well. We check back in P5 as Travis Brody continues his charge up through the field, up 14 positions. He's got a pretty decent amount of road in front of him as Daniel Rubel sits at currently about 10 seconds up the road. Just got to navigate through some lap traffic, one of whom just popped off right in front of Brody.
Back to our 2 leaders. Can't take our eyes off of them because it's down to 0.3 of a second now. Going past another car exiting pit lane. That's Randall Ayers, who is returning after a drive-through penalty of his own. We've gotten a few drivers given those here today, either through iRacing automatically or getting the naughty flag waved at them by the live stewards. Look around the outside this time from Ed Nelson, but that black car cannot find a way past yet.
No, he can't. What Nelson, I think, was trying to do there was either see if he could carry momentum around the outside or maybe look for a little bit of crossover move there. But Glenn Dennis, very wise, just slowed the car at the apex, prevented that crossover, and keeps Nelson behind him for the time being.
Well, we've got some time left. Let's head off to Taylor for our regular trivia question.
Yeah, we're going to have a little fun with the trivia. Of course, the Porsche track experience here at Barber Motorsports Park is a phenomenal opportunity for drivers to compete here and even just test their might and learn from some very well-known Porsche drivers throughout the history. But there's also a couple of other interesting places that people can go and get the Porsche experience. Now, it's probably going to be interesting to see who can get this quickly, but what are the 2 other areas that people can go here in the United States and enjoy the Porsche experience? We're going to give them a few minutes to see who gets it.
Is it Eldora Speedway?
If it went to Eldora, that would be exciting, I would say.
As we watch from Ayers, who we just mentioned has not been having a great day. In fact, I think he just had some sort of off or problem. So on top of his drive-through penalty, it just looks like he's just not having a fun time, which is unfortunate because we do this to have fun out here, but, well, they don't always go your way. Ed Nelson, in the meantime, is trying to make this one go his way, gets back within those 0.3 once again.
Just continues to close in the best he can, trying to apply pressure to Glenn Dennis. But under 5 minutes to go here, he is running out of time. He has really got to try to push past the 20. They've got about a 5-second gap back to Nicky Chan. So unless contact is involved, Nelson doesn't have a whole lot to lose here. I think this is go time for the number 14.
I'd agree. If he's going to make a move, he's going to have to make it decisive and make it stick. Glenn Dennis is not going to make it easy, no doubt. But credit to the 20, withstanding all this pressure, being experienced from behind for a good majority of this race. We haven't really covered it as much because we've had good action up and down. But in spite of leading the whole way, he's really not had it all his own way.
No, he really hasn't. He has been under almost constant pressure this entire race, but he's withstood it all very, very well.
We've got a single driver that has managed no incidents. We didn't get that in the sports series, unfortunately, Wednesday night, but Ivan Gomez seems to have gotten it this far. He's got 3.5 more minutes to go. So as long as he avoids off tracks or having any little oopsies out there, he'll take away a nice 4 bonus points. Taylor, I believe you've got some other info about him as well.
Yeah, Ivan Gomez is, of course, from the Maverick region, and one of the things that he enjoys to do with the PCAs is the Cars and Coffees rallies, which is a really exciting PCA event that they do involving the cars, that they do Porsche parade laps, as well as the rallies that they utilize in the PCA. He's been sim racing for 2 years, but has been part of the PCA sim racing for just 1 month. So this is his debut series event that he has been competing in for the first time in the PCA Sim Racing Series. His favorite Porsche is, of course, the 1998 GT1, a beautiful Porsche choice. And, of course, he's out there driving in the number 8. And it's always been his favorite number since he's a kid. So a great drive for Ivan Gomez as he continues to race on here.
Oh, and commentators curse yet again. He just lost that bonus as he spun right there. Oh, well, we need to stop mentioning who has a 0X. It's like the no-hitter. You don't talk about it. I do have a question, though, Taylor. Those coffee events, do any comedians ever show up at those?
That I do not know, but that would be a very good one, or a very good opportunity for a certain community to show up.
So, once again, looking at the leaders, still separated by about half a second. Nicky Chan nowhere near them, as he has been our winner at the last event over at Silverstone. Looks like he's not going to be able to repeat unless something dramatic happens between the 20 and the 14. And I think 2 laps to go at the line, I believe, this time by.
Yes, that is correct. And these guys are going to come up to a pack of some lapped traffic here as they come around. Before they get into it, though, Taylor, do we have a winner from the trivia?
We certainly do. It goes to RT Click, who's out there on the YouTube chat. There is 2 other sections to where you can enjoy the Porsche experience. There's one in Atlanta, Georgia, and then there's also the one in Carson, California, which is part of the Porsche Experience Center for Los Angeles region. So congratulations, RT Click. That's his second question he's got right so far since we've done these trivia questions.
Okay, heading down into the corner. So far, so good here with the traffic. They have talked to the drivers about respecting the blue flags. Now, it's not quite like Formula One where you have to leap out of the way. They're mainly informational. They just do not want drivers who are a lap down to hinder those who are a lap up on them. So they have to keep an eye on their mirrors, make sure and give space and not try to fight them. Looks like Nielsen is going to pull over, so Dennis now gets through, but so does Nelson, so he doesn't lose out there. They're going to just get to the line in time for 1 more lap.
They are indeed. Mario Gonzalez now the next car up the road from them in that red and white 777 machine. Ooh, Nelson looking like he's closing up mightily through 14 and 15. He's definitely going to take a look. Is this going to be a situation where a pick comes into play? They'll cross over the line to take the white flag, and it's all or nothing for Ed Nelson and Glenn Dennis.
It is awful tight, too. 5, 4, and they cross the line. This easily could have been one lap shorter amongst our drivers. Nelson sizing up the number 20. Gonzalez, good heads up, pulls out of the way through the Alabama roller coaster. No chance quite yet. This is the best passing zone around the track, down into Charlotte's Web. Is Nelson going to absolutely send it? He's way far back, so I really hope he doesn't. And he gets close. Almost makes the apex, but that's not going to do it. He continues back up and over the hill towards Museum Corner, DJ.
He's fallen back a little bit. This is going to have to be a very brave maneuver if he goes under the brakes into Museum Corner. He thinks about it, but doesn't go for it. His chances are running out here. He's got to maximize this exit coming down through turn 9, get onto the power and stick behind the draft of the number 20. They're now going to fly through 10 and 11. Chances are running out now for Ed Nelson.
He was looking close off of Museum Corner, but not close enough. What is he going to do? Is he going to try and send it into the last few corners? A little wide there from Glenn Dennis. That'll make him susceptible. He shuts the door down through 14 and into 15 as the track tightens. He hugs that inside, making sure not to give room to Ed Nelson. Once again, heads in front of him through 16, and Glenn Dennis, with a spectacular bit of defense, will take the win in the club class here in the PCA Sim Racing Series presented by Hagerty Motorsports.
Absolutely mega defense there from Glenn Dennis. As you said, Joe, got a little bit squirrely coming through 13, and Newen was able to defend. We ride on board now with Daniel Rubel trying to close in a little bit onto the back of Nicky Chan. That's not going to happen. Chan will take third here as they come over across the line. Here's a battle going on right now for P11.
Yep, that is Lyle Edey with J.R. Gregory just behind them. Let's see if he can catch up. And Edey actually starting to gain on Cottle. So it could be a battle for 10th, but no, he has a bad exit. Robert going to claim that top 10 here today. So that just about brings us all the cars. Oh no, what happened to Roadheaver? He sputters across the line. Did he have a wreck in the final corner? He did.
Hard break there for Jared Roadheaver just before he crosses over the line. That is a rough break for the 982.
As I was saying, 16 drivers on the lead lap, and it's Montgomery last across. That's going to take us to our results here for this race. And Glenn Dennis, as we mentioned, was your victor over Ed Nelson. 0.3 of a second between them at the line. Nicky Chan finished P3. Calm race, still valuable points there in the championship for the 981 as Travis Brody finished in 4th. You've got Daniel Rubel P5 as Stephen Kemp finishes in 6th. And it's Aaron Ambrosino P7. Robert Cottle went from 38th, and that was a legit qualifying attempt for him, up to 8th. Lyle Edey into 9th, and Gregory into 10th.
In 11th, it was Jared Roadheaver with that accident coming out of the final corner, followed by Robert Lacroix, who fell back down through the field after some early good running. Patrick Gill was 13th, followed by Ivan Gomez, and John Montgomery in 15th was your last driver on the lead lap. Mario Gonzalez was able to come home in 16th, followed by Klaus Nelson, with James Hayosh and Robert McNeil behind them, and Randall Ayers rounding out your top 20.
James Sue was another one that didn't have the greatest day, had to make a stop in pit lane. That sent him down to 21st. Markadakis in at 22nd was followed by Ergun Garalp, who started up in 8th and could only do 23rd. Will Waldron had it even worse. He was up at the very front, and after a little contact, he wound up in 24th after starting from 3rd. Curtis Crummell was 25th as Austin Bucket was 26th. Then it was Terrence Tong, P27, followed by Kevin Douglas in 28th, and Tamer Elbaga, another one that had some problems, finishing 29th, with John Martin rounding out your top 30.
Jalen Wen was in 31st, followed by Michael Patterson, both of who were 2 laps down. Albie Blanco behind them with Paul Neto and Mike Knighton in 35th. Knighton 3 laps down. Bruce Robinson also 3 laps down, followed by Kevin Heyman, who is 4 laps down, along with Peter Sigourney, Jeff C., and Kevin Eskeridge lining up in 39th and 40th.
From there, it is DNFs here today for these drivers. Sad to see so many fall afoul of that. Looks like we do have at least one driver to talk to from our podium, and that is Ed Nelson, although we just had someone else show up, trying to get a cue to see who we want to pull in first here. And looks like we will go with our winner who has shown up, Glenn Dennis, as Glenn gets ready to join us here in the booth. And Glenn, that had to have been quite nerve-wracking, because most of the time when we looked at you during this race, you had a lot of cars, or at least one car, right up your tailpipe.
Yeah, that was quite a fun race, super challenging. Spent a lot of time preparing for something like that. But yeah, super happy about the outcome, and pretty tired, actually. That was a stressful one.
Talk about the start as well. You got a little bit swamped for a couple corners, and then you fought back hard to get that back. Did you just not feel like you timed the start right, or what caused you to lose it briefly?
I think I had an okay start. I was really nervous about the speed that I was setting for the pace, because we had a warning from the last race that we're not allowed to go over the pace car speed limit. And I looked up and I was at 52 instead of 50, so that distracted me for just a second. I think I got an okay start, but of course, not going to win or lose the race in the first corner. I actually got a good run going into the hairpin down at the bottom of the hill, and was able to make that happen. So really fortunate, because this track is all about track position.
Well, before we head off to Montreal, are there any words of thanks that you have to give that anybody that helped make this podium possible?
Yeah, so many people, can't mention them all. Of course, Hagerty and Michelin are sponsors. Podium Esports, what you guys do, love it, makes it so much fun. And then Matrix Motorsports, so a lot of practice, all those drivers really helping us out, learning so much from those guys all the time. My team racing teammate, JR Gregory, and my competitor today. I'm glad he had a good day. And that's it. And of course, the Sim Racing League itself. Thanks, everybody. Really happy with the outcome.
I'd be happy too. That was the 20 car of Glenn Dennis, finishing with the pole and the win today. Up next, DJ has caught up with second place finisher Ed Nelson, who was the one putting that pressure on at the end.
Yeah, Ed, you looked like you were in battles pretty much that entire race, but the biggest battle you were in right near the end, talk me through those last couple of laps.
Oh, man, I was just trying to put pressure on Glenn there at the end, and hope I could get him into something, push him into some kind of mistake where I could get by him. But, man, Glenn drove his derriere off and did a great job holding me off.
Well, as a driver, I mean, is that the kind of stuff you live for, though? Those battles where you're really, really pushing in and trying to go for it. I've got to imagine behind the wheel of the sim, that's kind of why you love doing this, is being challenged by drivers is good all around.
Oh, 100%. 2/3 through the race there, I think the top 4 or 5 guys were less than a second and a half apart, and any one of us making a mistake. James, bumped whoever he bumped and got the black flag there. And that was unfortunate, because all of the top 4 of us you could throw a blanket over us. And it was really intense. I was just trying to focus on my entries and exits, and not focus on the car in front of me, so I didn't drive off the track.
Well, I'd say you did it pretty well there, my friend. Anybody you'd like to thank for this very, very impressive second here today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Michelin, Hagerty. I use both of them for my Porsches. And Joe Stiffel, Dewey King, Jacob Schum, all the guys that I practice with all week long.
Well, there you go. That was your...
You guys too. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Ed. That was Ed Nelson, your second place finisher here today. And now, Rachel, I believe you've caught up with our third place finisher, Nikki Chan.
Yeah, certainly have. And well, we have Canada's own Nikki Chan with us here. An amazing drive here for third place on a tricky track this season. Actually, probably the tightest track we go to.
Oh, tell me about it. That was super tricky. And when I got into practice and qualifying, I just saw the pace and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to try and take it easy and not wipe out and see what I can make up.
Well, certainly did it very, very well today with the podium finish there. Now, I got to ask, we spoke to you last season at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Which is technically more your home track, that or Montreal?
Much more Motorsport. I mean, I've actually been on Motorsport, and I doubt anybody's really been on Jacques Villeneuve. So, Gilles Villeneuve. So, yeah, I mean, I'm much more familiar with Motorsport.
Well, that'll be certainly very good to see. And, well, the list of people who've been on Jacques Villeneuve are is lengthy. Either way, I digress. Before we go there, how are you at this track in the sim, Gilles Villeneuve?
I think I'm okay. If we look at sort of the track list we're going through this season, it's probably one of my a bit more familiar ones, but can't say I'm that familiar. So it still needs a lot of work, but hopefully maybe I can outwork others.
Awesome, and we look forward to seeing that. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I really want to take this opportunity to thank you guys, Joe, DJ, Taylor, Rachel. I mean, you guys make this happen. To be honest, I don't know how many people will watch this if you guys weren't here. And I can really tell, you guys did a stellar job last year, but this year it's a really step up. So, yeah, thanks for you guys. And, hope we can chat again.
Absolutely. We hope to see you on the podium yet again next time, especially at a Canadian track. Thanks for joining us. Nikki Chan coming home today in third place.
That's going to round out our interviews, but don't go away. We have more racing to come with the Pro Series here in just a moment at Barber Motorsports Park. Once again, stick around.
Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
Welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park. Get ready for the Pro Class here in the PCA Sim Racing Series presented by Hagerty Motorsports. After what we witnessed in the Club Series, it looks like we are in for a doozy. And let's see how they handle it in the dark, because just like we saw last week at Silverstone, they're going to be starting off quite late in the day, which is going to be certainly rather difficult. But before we get to the racing, we of course have the championships to go over here for the pros now. And up at the top of this one, it is Lisner, our winner from last week, who is leading by a few more points thanks to some bonuses over Leif Peterson. So about a 6-point margin between them. And then look at that, 10 points between himself and Justin S7E2 saying, I have a feeling those bonus points might play a part in things. Walsh, Huth, Schum, Braun, Dyer, and Stiffel, along with Craig, round out your top 10 after the first event of the series. So keep an eye on those guys, see if they can continue that good form here today. And I believe we have been given the cue for our sponsor for this series. So let's head on over to that, because it is brought to you by none other than Porsche. Because Porsche is more than a sports car, it's a way of life for all of us. And we appreciate their support of PCA Sim Racing as the Pro Class sponsor. With a recent sub-7-minute lap at the Nurburgring in the GT3 and the arrival of the all-new 992 GT3 Cup car to the U.S., Porsche's dedication to motorsports is stronger than ever. Find more about Porsche at Porsche.com. Now for your starting grid. Rafael Amorim will be on the top of that. Chris Pies starts next to him, with Justin Sang starting from third, as Chris Walsh is fourth and Leif Peterson fifth. You're seeing a lot of names that you saw just a moment ago, so this is a good sign for them. Jacob Schum will be starting P6, as Huth is seventh, Braun is eighth, and Waltman ninth. Ruzidis starts in 10th.
James Patak will be lining up in 11th, followed by Todd Panic, with Derwin Kostanak in 13th and Bandy Polai in 14th. Jordan Dyer will be 15th, followed by Matthew Sedal and Joe Sinclair in 17th. Julien Velez will be 18th, followed by Jean-Paul Leno in 19th and David Craig in 20th.
21st goes to Joe Stiffel, as Stephen Chen starts in 22nd, and you've got Rodney Campbell 23rd. Dewey Kang, will be starting from 24th. Greg Fullwood will be P25, and Charles Yao is 26th. Then you've got Rick Reinsberg starting 27th, and then Cugliari and Fonseca did not put a qualifying time in. They've got the grid up at the very back of the fields. Let's go through it again. Hopefully we'll be able to see who finishes where. Let's start with DJ. Who's your pick on this group?
I'm going to be looking at Chris Pies and the googly eyes. He had a good run last time out, and I think he may be able to capitalize.
Rachel?
I'm still stunned by the rhyming there, but I think my money this time is going to be on Leif Peterson. I think he's going to be a little bit sore from last time. He's close enough to the front here in the top 5. He has a real shot, and this night race could throw them all off.
And Taylor, you get last pick.
Rachel picked the driver who I wanted to pick, Mr. Consistency, Leif Peterson. But you know what? I'm going to go with our pole sitter, Rafael Amorim, who has had a strong run in the PCA. I think he has what it takes to take home the checker flag, and he's at the front of the field, so that's going to be even a bigger advantage.
Okay. Well, as they come around on the back stretch now, it's a little bit cooler than what we experienced before, DJ. 86 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. Hopefully that'll help counteract some of the difficulty in driving into the nighttime as we see some of our onboards here today.
Indeed we will, and yeah, that will cool things down a little bit, but 86 degrees Fahrenheit, still relatively within that Goldilocks zone, so by the time it gets very chilly, I do expect tires to be up to temperature and drivers not have as much problems going forward.
And one of those drivers that you saw on there was Chris Walsh, who's actually racing from VIR itself because he's racing there in real life. There you see him on screen with his car behind him. So that is brilliant stuff. But can he be brilliant in the virtual world as we get ready to go green? And Amorim starts from that top spot, waiting for the green flag, which waves now as Barney sends them off down into turn one. Little bit of a better start for Raphael to his outside. Pye's not able to attack it as viciously, so he falls back in a second. Looks like third going to go to Walsh as he promotes himself onto the podium.
Very close racing there between Walsh, Peterson, and Schum. Everybody getting very, very tight there in the back, but they're able to make it through the Alabama roller coaster nice and easy. Our leaders now spread out pretty evenly as they dive down. Looks like a little move in the back from James Huth.
Yep, that's on Schum, but Schum's not done with it because Braun has now gone to his inside, coming off the corner, so he could lose 2 spots in 1 turn here.
Indeed, he could. Looking down to the inside the best they can. Diving in, Brown is going to back out of it. Schum, rather, backing out of it as they go down into Museum Corner. That's very tricky. We see Chris Brown there as he pushes his way forward in VR.
So 7th place. That's still 1 position up from where he began this race. I think we had a problem with Dewey Kang down through Museum Corner. I see him off track. We'll try and check in later with Taylor to see if he can figure out what happened to him. Meanwhile, getting ready to complete lap 1, your podium has Amorim, Pye's, and Sang.
Yes, it does, but that may not be all that is done and said yet, as we are hearing Chris Walsh is getting a drive-through penalty here, so that is going to be a problem. He's going to drop down through the order.
Oof. Yeah, that is not the start he wanted. Rachel, in the meantime, has some information. Rachel, what's up?
Actually, 2 pieces now. That drive-through for Walsh is going to be for warming his tires on a pace lap. I guess some habits die hard. But the incident we just had was actually Stephen Chen in the 8 spun out there at the start of the lap. They were dropping down through Museum Corner, and unfortunately he spun around, rejoined the track after not being able to stop the car, clips the 32 of Dewey Kang, who is flung end over end across into the gravel.
Route Zias here, and the 05 down through Museum Corner as well, but much more successfully, sitting in that 8th place. And this train is very equidistant from one another. This is interesting to see, comparing it to the previous 3 classes and just how much precision these guys are able to put down on this track.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. You see just how much time that these guys have been able to put down. And as we talked about earlier, rest assured, they're all watching the previous rounds before, and so they're learning where the bad parts of the track are and just how to handle them. And so as we continue to ride on board here with Yao, as he goes around through that very tricky final corner, we saw a couple of drivers falling afoul of that in the last cup out that we were on. There they go. We're jumping up board here to ride on board with the 24 of Jordan Dyer as he has a train of cars in front of him.
And lucky number 13th position. Little look around the outside there from the 770. And, oh, whoa, he's going to outbrake himself, and he's going to get into Kostanak. Unfortunately, both of them off the course in Charlotte's Web. Some serious damage. It looks like both are still rolling, but that is not going to do well for them, and I have a feeling they're going to get a call to the stewards at some point.
Yeah, I think you may be right on that one, Joe, but Kostanak there continues to go along. A little bit of a battle in behind of him with Fullwood and Yao as they make their way down into Charlotte's Web. Oh, that is that replay. Not pretty at all.
Just seemed like he lost his braking point or something there, and with it being downhill, you are on a trajectory, unfortunately. A lot of curb there as we were riding on board for a moment. This is Braun being chased by Schum. That is for the 6th position. Again, it is quite late here. It is almost 7 p.m. virtual standard time, with this being set in October. In fact, it is set today here in the Alabama region as we watch from Schum's perspective. A very dramatic shot there. He's gone to the film school method of streaming, I guess, today with a full silhouette of himself.
Well, Joe, as two of us with film degrees, who says you can't use it here in iRacing? So I'm kind of digging that a little bit. But we ride on board with him. You're looking out the back there as you see that 05 just trying to stalk in behind him the best as possible. But Jacob doing a great job to be able to hold him off here in the early stages of this race.
He went backwards for a moment as we now come back to the TV cameras along the back stretch. Weaving across, not really a back straight, unfortunately, because of these chicanes that dot it. And then over the crest of 13. Once again, no change for the top three. Amorim, Pies, Sang still in their same positions. Gonna watch Braun's view. And his hair certainly enjoying the fans that he's got blowing on him.
Yeah, definitely giving you a little bit of a sense of just what he's got to do to cool himself down. Even if you are in an air-conditioned house, it can be very, very hot when you get the sim running and all the different apps. Love how you can see him looking through the corners like that, especially at so many blind corners around here at Barber. You've really got to use every bit of your periphery and look through the apexes. So we jump back into the 62 car back in 23rd. This is Rodney Campbell.
And we've had a huge battle with Panic in 10th. There's been a lot of back and forth with Siddall, Panic, and Dyer. They're swapping positions constantly up here, and right now we're side by side for that top 10. Siddall to the inside, just ahead of Panic, and it looks like he finally gets that move done.
Yes, he does. A little bit of a defense there coming in, but it may not be over yet. The 13 under heavy pressure from Dyer, looking to see if he can do it. It's not going to be able to get done there through the sweeper chicanes.
Still all over the gearbox. Dyer doesn't stick his nose in down into 12 this time. And this is great news for Siddall in the 55. Maybe a thought about it into 14, but then backs out. As Dyer is really considering some of these risky moves, but thankfully cars still hold back onto the front stretch yet again. That wasn't a good exit.
No, it was not. And he's going to have to just try to hold this the best that he can. Panic ahead of him. Just keeping everything together, but we're jumping back around here. This is Schum again as we look out the back. Liam there in the 05. Trying to hold on. It looks like he's got enough of an advantage to be able to pull things out here.
He's still got Zitas back behind him in that 05. He's losing touch with the 258 in front of him. We hop on board with Liam now. Coming over and through the crest of Museum Corner, which has got to be even more difficult. Now, not only is it a blind corner, but you've now really got less view coming across it with only the headlights lighting your way. So you better hope that there is no wreck in front of you as you come through there. Thankfully, nothing this time. And down through 12 and 13, both of them nice and tidy, thankfully. These pros are certainly showing their skills here today.
Yes, they are. And one of those who is really showing his skill here is Chris Pies, the Lone Star Region driver, running in second right now. We saw him in the battle for the podiums last time out. He is really doing a good job here, trying to keep up to Amorim as much as possible, but that gap has grown out to about 1.3 seconds.
You know how we mentioned, DJ, how hard it is trying to go through the field here, trying to make passes here? Well, Chris Walsh, with his penalty, he went back down to 25th place. He's already taken 19th right there and into turn one of all places, that fast left-hander.
Joe, I did not think that was possible, but Chris Walsh just absolutely dominating there. There you can see a little bit of the wind on his hair as he drives through the sim at VIR. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Some teammates there behind him maybe working on the car.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're working on it now. I think they look just as distracted seeing how he's performing. This should be fun to watch. In the meantime, Taylor's got even more info on him.
Well, when he's not sim racing or when he's not competing in the real world with motorsports racing across the country, he's also an Olympic bobsledder. So he is also just an extreme sports fanatic when it comes to competing at high speeds and having fun, as he is definitely one of the top, most interesting members of the PCA. Of course, he's been sim racing for about 2 years and with the PCA Sim Racing Series for about 2 years, but the Carolinas region's driver from Pittsboro, North Carolina, not too far from where I grew up, is a phenomenal driver. Great story about him, as well as it served in the United States military, so a very strong competitor as he works his way up through the field here tonight.
Talk about a man of the world. And coming through into Charlotte's Web, well, it doesn't quite have the bobsled to slide underneath and get by the 56 Rudzitas, who we're on board with now, still, and quite a bit of a fight here in the top 10.
Yeah, he's just trying to close in on that 7th place position right now, coming down through Museum Corner. Very, very tricky to get a pass done into there, but it looks like he's got a little bit of a better run trying to get out there. Not able to make it go into the sweeper as yet. Rudzitas just putting pressure here on Jacob Schum. And remember, this is one of those things that we've talked about, just keeping to apply that pressure as much as possible and hope that that driver ahead of you is going to make a mistake.
Now, I believe we've got some information on our leader as well, as Rachel's been hovering around that pit stall. Rachel, what's up?
Absolutely. Raphael Amarim, not Raphael Ramarim, that would be the opposite way around. Driver from the Peach State region of the PCA. Now, he's been sim racing 18 months from what we've heard, and he's been in the PCA for 12 of those 18 months. He started last year in Season 5. In fact, this season just gone, Series 6, he came home with 3 career wins and 2nd place in the Pro class. So he actually managed some really impressive stats, including winning Imola last series with 0x, which is a huge, huge result for a driver there. He really has to be one of the guys to watch this season for the Pro class, and it's one I'll be keeping my eye on for certain. And he says that, you know, growing up, he absolutely wanted to be a race driver, but it's not the career path he ended up taking. And PCA and PCA Sim Racing have filled that niche for him. He says it's amazing he could race without even leaving the house, and he just loves how competitive it is. But the biggest thing I really have to pick on here is, one of the questions we ask these drivers is, other than the best Porsches are the most pussy rear engine, the other question here that is a very divisive one, and I'd like to actually hear the Boost's opinions on this. He says, to the question, is a hot dog a sandwich? He says, yes, definitely. I need your opinions here, because this is divisive. I'd say no.
I'm gonna defer to DJ on this one first.
Oh, no, you need to answer too.
I will eventually, but give me some time here to mull it over. This is a serious philosophical question. Yes, it is.
Wow,
it's
DJ.
very serious.
On the
I
spot.
will say under the definition of the law, it is, but I do not consider it a sandwich.
There you go. Taylor?
I have to agree with DJ. It is under the definition of a law. It is a sandwich, but I do not consider it a actual sandwich.
I mean, is
Personal
it a sandwich or is it meat kind of in a piece of bread?
I mean, that's technically what a sandwich is, but I guess it has to be more of a closed-face type bread instead of what a hot dog bun is.
Yeah. It's meant to be meat between 2 slices of bread. That's how the Earl of Sandwich intended it.
All right, do you want to hear my take?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Well,
went to Google, didn't you?
No, I did not. I promise. Since reality is based on one's perception, if your perception is that it is a sandwich, it is a sandwich. So it is and it is not all at once.
It's Schrodinger's hot dog.
Hot dog.
Wow.
I bet the PCA did not expect this when they hired us.
Yeah, this is some deep philosophy here, as we get the gorgeous view there of the Porsches racing down the front straight into the first corner there. Gorgeous, gorgeous run there, but yeah, deep philosophy here in the dying light of Birmingham, Alabama. Joe, this is your show, I'll shut up.
All right, I'll take it right back as we watch Jordan Dyer have some fun. Last round certainly had some action into cops. Let's see if we can see some more brave moves from the 24 today, as that was Todd Panic there with him. He was trying to see if he could get something done through the Alabama roller coaster and wants to try again into Charlotte's Web. And Todd Panic's not giving it up easy as they go side by side down towards Museum Corner. Hopefully they don't go side by side down through Museum Corner. Are they willing to do it? They are. And just having to back out at the last apex, it looks like Dyer finally allows Panic through.
And just barely allows him through. You tried to see him holding out there along the long way around. Let's go check this out on replay, Joe. Down to the inside, trying to make it work, and they're just in a drag race from here on out.
Well, they call it Charlotte's Web there in turn 4, and I think you need to change one of those cars to the Pink Pig and put some pig on it, because, wow, what a move. And glad to see both of them giving space and giving us a brilliant show here in this race. Still 30 minutes left to go, and there's a little mistake from Panic. Don't panic now. Get out your towel and carry on. But Jordan Dyer and the 24 is going to be able to take that 11th spot.
Yes, he is. So move Dyer on. He's making his moves here up through the field, up 4 positions on his starting place. So Dyer definitely able to get going.
Rutsidas in the 05. We've been checking in here on board from time to time, and is still on the back of Schum. He's got to get a little bit bored of that 56. Has at this point memorized all the sponsors, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he has as well, but Schum just trying to hold on here the best he can. Rutsidas pushing in. That gap just keeps ebbing and flowing a little bit, Joe. It's holding at about 0.6 of a second right now.
What is the traffic like, though? I'm checking in on that right now because, yeah, okay, they have not caught up to the back of the field anywhere near to it. Rick Reinsberg, I believe, is our last one, currently in 26th. So they have caught at least one car. That's James Tack. Otherwise, the field has just been chugging along without anybody at the front to worry about overtaking. Amarem leading Pies, leading Sang. Here's from on board Pies. And this really gives you a good idea of how difficult it can be seen sometimes in the dark in iRacing races.
Indeed, and thankfully here at Barber, you do have those brake markers out to the right and left that are pretty close to the track, as opposed to places like thinking like of Monza or anything like that, where those braking markers can be a little farther out to the side. So you are able to see those and keep your braking markers, but nonetheless, especially with all the elevation change around here and just the headlights to guide you, you've really got to know this track well, and Chris Pye is doing a good job to demonstrate that here.
Well, the good news is, DJ, he's got an extra set of eyes. So Chris Pies has got himself plenty to go on and is still holding second place with a decent margin over Justin Sang, about 3 seconds currently. Well, we've only had one DNF, and that is car 770, who we saw in that incident a little bit earlier. Otherwise, 27 cars of our 28 starters still rolling.
Indeed, Joe, a pretty good field out here. There is Chris Walsh. We talked about that penalty that he had to serve earlier, but the 104 working his way back up through the field. He's only got just under 2 seconds to get to Derwin Kostanak ahead of him, and then he'll continue to rise. It's going to be interesting to see just how far he can go here today.
So 16th place is nothing to sniff at in the pro class. Sure, he should at least feel good about that, but it's opportunity missed, having just disobeyed the rules there in the warm-up. Got to make sure and read the rule book and pay attention, or else these little things can unfortunately scupper your race. DJ, I almost think back to Russia. I think it was in 2020 when we saw Lewis Hamilton cost himself a couple penalties. Trying to start from the wrong place in pit lane. Look, just tiny things like that. This reminds me of that sometimes drivers just have those tiny slip-ups and it affects the whole race.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. It's just those little slips that you don't even think about that can come back to bite you really, really hard. As we ride on board here with Rodney Campbell, kind of running in a little bit of a race of his own right now, back in 20th. He's got about 7.5 seconds up the road to Greg Fullwood, and Stephen Chen is about 3 seconds behind him. So he's just focusing on running a good race around here at the moment.
Campbell getting his 15 minutes of fame for a brief moment. But top 20 possibly on the cards if he could just ride this one home. Actually getting close to the halfway mark. So we should see these drivers be able to finish up sooner than we expect. We have had at least one other driver with a drive-through penalty throughout this race. Julian Velez has been in and out. He's back to 22nd position on the track right now, but only he and Walsh, a pretty stark contrast from how many we saw in the other three classes in this event.
Yeah, for sure, Joe. It just goes to show you the level of skill that really takes place here in the Pro Series. Everybody doing a great job out on track.
So I mentioned it's about halfway. That means it's time to bring you the Midway Race Report, brought to you by Porsche. Porsche is more than a sports car. It's a way of life for all of us, and we appreciate their support of PCA Sim Racing as the Pro Class sponsor. With a recent sub-7-minute lap at the Nurburgring in the GT3 and the arrival of the all-new 992 GT3 Cup car to the U.S., Porsche's dedication to motorsports is stronger than ever. Find more about Porsche at Porsche.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much, and without hiccups this time, we have our run-through. Rafael Amorim started on pole, still running in first place. The Peach State Region driver of zone number 3. A big fan of PK and Schumacher. He is putting in some work that would make them proud in that 16 machine. Second place is Chris Pies, and I will not make another pun about his ocular equipment. Started second, running in second, the 14 car from the Lone Star region of Texas. Oh, I can't help it, those eyes are... they're enthralling. Third place is Justin Sang. Started third, running third, and one guy without VR here. But the Golden Gate region driver of zone number 7 in that 15 machine, putting some work in. Mr. Consistency himself started 5th, running in 4th now. Maverick region of Texas, zone 5, the 913. There, Foley Peterson putting some real work in. He is catching up to Sang ahead of him. G5 now, James Huth in the 12 car, the Hudson Champlain region driver from zone number 1, up 2 places from where he started in 7th place. We could make a joke about close shaves and Braun, Chris Braun and Barber. That'll go, that was way too obvious. Started 8th, running in 6th. The driver from the Northeast region of zone number 1 in the 258. You saw his camera there, and looks real windy wherever he is. 7th place is Jacob Schum, our art house filmographer right here. Down 1 from 6th where he started with his silhouette view from his camera. And he is from the Carolinas region in that 56 machine, zone number 3. Liam Rositkis is in the 8th place. He is up 2 places from 10th right there in the 05 car. The Upper Canada region driver is right on the tail of Schum, so we could be seeing some action going on there. Started 9th, running 9th. Jonathan Waltman there, big group of cars behind him. He is in the 7 car from the Santa Barbara region of California, zone number 8. 10th place is Matthew Siddle from the Lone Star region of Texas. Lots of Texas drivers in the Pro Series, must be in the water. The 55 machine is up 6 places from 16th where he started. 11th place, Jordan Dyer in the 24 machine from the Slant Sand region of zone number 10. Dyer is up 4 places from 15th on the grid. Nobody panic, it's Todd Panic. The 13 car is from the Pacific Northwest region of zone 6. He's exactly where he started, in 12th, so maybe it's time to start panicking. Joe Stiffel is up from 21st to 13th, our biggest mover in the top 15 there. The Chicago region driver from zone 13 in the 003 is really putting some work in today. Derwin Kosnak there in 14th place, down one from 13th, where he started from the Wild Rose region of Zone 14. That's the 190 car there, putting some in, but he's going to try and recoup what he's lost to Joe Stiffel.
Currently sitting in the 15th spot from the Carolinas region is the co-runner himself, Chris Walsh, who is now back at it as he gained back into the 15th spot after having to serve his penalty. Moving on back to 16th position is Dave Craig from the Keystone region. Of course, one of the favorite Porsches for Dave Craig is the 996 GT1. We move on further back to the 17th position. It's none other than Jean-Paul Leno from the Mardi Gras region. This would be considered a home race for him. And as he works his way through the field, having a strong performance here at the car number 2 in a very lively colored car. In the 18th position is Greg Fullwood. Greg has been a longtime PCA member, as from the Delaware region. Of course, one of his favorite is the GT3 Touring. So he is having a fun time here in his GT3R Porsche in the closing stages. Moving on back into the 19th position from the Upper Canada region, Joe Sinclair trying to work his way up through the field. Joe, of course, started a little bit ahead in 17th, has dropped back to 19th, looking to see if he can capitalize. Next up, rounding out your top 20 from the northern New Jersey region is Julian Velez. Julian Velez, of course, enjoying all things here as he continues on. As he works his way through, one of his favorite drivers is a speed bike racer, Bert Mono, who is the world's fastest Indian driver specifically, as he works his way through. In the 21st position is Charles Yao. There you see him with the VR headset from the Finger Lakes region. Charles having a great time utilizing the VR headset. He's been sim racing for about 11 years now, started back in 2010. Moving back to the 22nd position is Alberto Fonseca from the Pacific Northwest region as he is working his way through. His favorite number, the reason why he drives that 44, was based after the Porsche 944 race car that he built when he was club racing. In the 23rd position, as we move further back, is Dewey King. Dewey King, a longtime PCA sim racer. Had the chance to meet with him at Daytona about a year ago, and one of the most famous things that he ended up getting was a Coke-inspired Porsche livery that was absolutely stunning. So we move back to the 24th position. We will find the Diablo region's driver, Rick Reisenberg. Rick, of course, having been a long time, little over a year racing on the sim, but has still had a great recovery drive and working his way through. His favorite driver, he really likes Lewis Hamilton. Who does not like Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest drivers in Formula One history. Moving on to the 25th position is Rodney Campbell. Rodney Campbell, of course, from the Wild Rose region as he works his way up through the field, having a quiet night for him. And, of course, one of his favorite Porsches is the Panamera 4S. Has had a fun time driving that when driving his Porsches. Moving back to the 26th position, he's the last car on the track and the last car one lap down, is James Patak from the Peach State region, a longtime sim racer. He's been in the series since season 1. And of course, how long he's been sim racing? Since 1987 with the Alcalates Test Drive 1. So a longtime sim racer. For the rest of the field, Stephen Chen and Shabalo Benjopaje round out your 28-car field. They are out of tonight's event.
This concludes tonight's Midway Race Report, brought to you by Porsche. Once again, a big thank you to them, as well as to Rachel and Taylor for bringing us through the field. We haven't had many changes, although one driver just had an off and now has a second one, is Todd Panic. So his name is unfortunately rearing its ugly head, and the 13 has fallen down to, looks like, I believe, 14th place. Joe Stiffel also just went off as we run back to Walsh once again, up to P13 himself. So he just overtook Panic after his latest off through turn 15. Walsh has gone up, let's see, that'll be 12 positions now, I think, that he has managed to gain over the course of this race. They're on lap 21, so that's an average of better than a lap or a position every other lap.
Yeah, it's really impressive here from Chris Walsh, and it's not exactly surprising, it must be said. He now has his sights set ahead on Derwin Kostanak. But we jump back here to James Huth. This is a really great train that I've been keeping my eye on, Joe. That's Justin Sang up in front in third. Leaf keeps behind him, James Huth and Chris Brown. All of them pretty much running line astern here.
Yeah, I was noticing that too during that run through, that it seemed like it could explode at any moment. It's just been a pressure cooker for Justin Sang, seeing a whole bunch of headlights in his mirrors for perhaps the past 5 or 6 laps now. And as he comes out of the Alabama roller coaster, Leif Peterson is the one giving chase. James Huth, though, is keeping him honest. He's awful close, but he's not close enough. You can see him getting near the rear bumper of that 913, but can't attempt to pass yet.
Yeah, just can't really get it working up there at this point. We still have about 15 minutes to go, though, so I think there is a sense that these drivers may just be holding back a little bit, seeing what they can do, and waiting until the latter stages of this race to really start to push here at Barber.
Watching from Schum's roof cam now, sitting in P8, little ways back from this one. And I was trying to remember, I think there was another overtake. Oh, yes, it was with Schum, excuse me. This is why it reminded me. Rutsitas did get by the 56 of Schum to take that 7th place while we were doing the run through. So Liam now up into 7th. And has joined that train that we were just mentioning, trying to fight for the podium. This is a little farther behind them. This is on board Waltman. It has absolutely gotten pitch black today. I think this is a lot worse than what we saw over at Silverstone. There's no sun to be seen on the horizon.
No, none at all, Joe, and it's really down to driver instincts. And speaking of those instincts, Jonathan Waltman really starting to kick some of those in, making moves here on the 55 of Matthew Seidel, just trying to push that orange and green machine to its limits. We look out the back of Seidel here, maybe thinking about a move down into Charlotte's Web is Waltman. Not going to go for it, but Seidel runs a little bit wide. This could be the opportunity that number 7 needs. They're almost alongside one another. It's going to have to be a late maneuver for Waltman to make it work. He's going to back off a little bit.
Not gutsy enough at this stage. I'm keeping half an eye on this and also on Chris Walsh, who's gathered up Kostanak and could get into the top 12 pretty soon. Here he is. Now we've got his roof cam up. And he was within about 0.3 of a second of Derwin for a brief moment, and then that suddenly went away.
Yeah, that fell back a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what happened to Chris at that point. But look at how much he is able to close in there through that run. Going now through the right hand of the last couple of corners on the track here. Chris really just has this Porsche dialed in.
Can we get a replay on board the 05 of Rutsitas? He was just behind Chris Braun, who gave away 6th place just now, coming through turn 13. This had to be a scary moment. Let's see, here we go. So yeah, we're gonna see it here at the end of the back portion of the course. So watch ahead of this 05 car and tell me this wouldn't scare the bejesus out of you.
Little bit there, and here it comes going down through the chicane. Wait for it. Oh.
Wow, that was some trust. I don't think he knew that car went off. From watching it from that perspective, he just blew by as he went into the grass. But wow, yeah, he set him up beautifully coming into 12, and that netted the 05 as 6th place.
Well, Joe, and that's kind of what I always talk about in terms of getting the driver ahead of you to make a mistake. We ride on board here with James Huth, who's trying to force a mistake out of one of the most consistent drivers in the series, Leif Peterson. He's got that gap under half a second here at this point. Justin Sang able to pull away a little bit from Peterson, and so it's all attack here from James Huth.
Ooh, another development. Apologies for jumping us around a bit as we watch Dewey Kang, in a nice little fight side by side. That was Yao, and he is going to send him goodbye. No, he won't. Here comes Charles back at him, and this is directly in front of our leader. This is what I wanted to get to, is Amarim has suddenly found himself slowed up a bit because he's got battling cars now that he's trying to lap.
And that's Amarim able to get by, going down into Museum Corner. He's now going to have to try to get around Kang. Kang over the radio right now, I think probably apologizing a little bit for holding him up like that. That's not going to cost Raphael too much time. He still has about a 3.7-second gap to Chris Pies behind him. But as the leader, you never want to come into positions like that, especially in the dark. It is absolutely hair-raising.
Got to keep that F3 box up that we were talking about earlier today in the broadcast. Make sure you're aware when those blue flags are waving. As we watch from Pies, he's got it still at about 3.5 seconds, so that traffic didn't seem to get him enough to really have a better sense of hope about trying to steal this win away. And he's got 10 more minutes, so there is still time. He's also got to get his way through that traffic. Oh, and Braun in the 258 is facing the wrong way on the track.
Oh no, what happened there to the 258? That is way, way off. I believe that's coming onto the start-finish straight, Joe.
It is. And yeah, look at the great use of the VR there. Looking over his shoulder, literally, to try and find that he was clear. And that happened because he clipped the grass out of turn 16, banged into the wall. Unfortunately, like I said, he was facing the wrong way, so had to do a 5-point turn here to eventually get it going the right direction. Oh, wow, that was a big hit.
Yeah, that was a massive hit there for him. Riding on board now with Dave Craig as he comes down into Charlotte's Web, still trying to chase down Panic ahead of him.
Okay, the final stages, the last quarter of this race. And Leif Peterson still within about 1.2 seconds of Sang. The laps I'm looking at compared between the two, looks like Sang with a 23.7, 23.7. Actually, 23.7's all three last laps. Whereas Peterson, 23.7, 23.9, 23.7. So just about as consistent, but that one lap lost him, unfortunately, about 0.2.
Yeah, definitely lost him some time there, and he's going to have to make it all up if he can here. Riding on board with Justin Sang as he makes his way up and over the hill. More lap traffic in front of Sang. Doesn't really have too much to go here. Chris Pye's still about 4.5 seconds up the road of him, but he does need to watch out for Peterson behind.
However, Fonseca and Sinclair are battling for position just ahead of him. So, and it looks like Sinclair is going to get the spot, but Fonseca slowing way more than I think he anticipated. Sang gets checked up and off the corner once again. He has to lift. Peterson sees that gap evaporate.
Yes, he does. And so here it is all to do now for Liam. He's going to try to go to the outside a little bit, try to force a little bit of an issue if he can move in its way this way and that.
Go, and Sang has to catch the car as he gets loose, unable to lap Fonseca. There is the spot for Peterson. He is now up into the podium, and Sang is incensed.
Yes, he is. I would be absolutely furious. You can see him there just muttering that lap traffic coming out to absolutely ruin Sang's race here, shaking his head as he comes around.
Rutsidis also got fourth, so Justin has lost 2 spots in just a couple corners. Oh my goodness. The red mist is down now. Sang is going to be driving like a man possessed. But can he get both of those spots back? He's got quite a bit of time to make up and only 6 minutes to do it.
Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot. He does only have about 5/10 up the roads to Rosita's, so he's going to have to try to do that. They are running in straight line here, so it's not necessarily like that they're going to have some lap traffic, although they do have Sinclair and Patak about, I would say, 5 seconds up the road.
Well, we've said it on air a lot, DJ, the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh. So with still more cars up in front of them, I wonder if maybe karma will pay back Justin down the line.
It very well could indeed, and I know Justin is going to be praying for that. He looks a little bit later onto the brakes there going in, but as that battle cools down ever so slightly, we jump back to Jacob Schum here, as he is now only about 0.6 of a second behind Justin Sang. So this, what was basically a three-car train, is now really stretching all the way back to James Huth in 7th.
Well, if he wants to pray here, conveniently, they have an inflatable church for that. So down into the first corner once again. Schum giving chase. Now he's got an extra carrot in front of him to see if he can get into the top 5 with Justin Sang. Maybe a little bit off of his game now. He could have been rattled by all that went down.
Yeah, could be a little bit of that, Joe. We'll have to see. Ooh, that's a bit of a wide run there for Sang. He's able to diamond off the corner a little bit, but still, I don't think that's going to exactly get him the run he wants. And indeed, that gap up to Liam Rositas is growing all the time. It's now over a second.
In the pitch blackness here in iRacing, 5 minutes now left to go for our drivers. Ooh, and not everybody having the easiest of times through Museum Corner. 05 once again finding himself having to deal with a chasing car, along with trying to attack himself. Leif Peterson up in front of him.
Yeah, Leif there about 0.7 or so up the road, and he's going to be hoping to hold on to a third place position here. That gap shrinking down now to Rositas to about 0.5 of a second. There you can see Leif as he makes his way onto the main straight. Under 5 minutes to go here, so time running out for any of these drivers to really try to push and make a move.
Watching Peterson on screen with Rositas behind him, and not by a lot. Leif managed to inherit this with the traffic giving him something, but he could be just as susceptible. 4 minutes now left on the clock.
Yeah, only 4 minutes to go. Rositas getting very close to the back. Oh, as I think something may have happened there for James Huth. Schum able to get on by him there. Justin Sang still losing time to Rositas, though. So I think the dreams of a podium here for Justin may be slipping off into the Alabama sunset.
Oh, and side by side there, down through the corner. That is not fun this late in the race. But they managed to make it out the other side, hopping on board with Schum once again. The 56, just barely behind Huth. Huth known for being a quick driver, but apparently it is not a one to cause Jacob to back down, because he is on it today.
Yeah, Jacob is very much driving with a whole bunch of tenacity out here today. I can report also that Chris Walsh was able to make his way past Kostanek up into 11th position there. You can see that car there. He's got a lot of time to make up, though, to Jonathan Waltman, about 4.8 seconds. So that may be the end of Chris Walsh's rise through the field.
I don't think he should be ashamed of 11th place, though. Look at how big the headlights are and his mirrors and that rear view screen as well. But being a professional, I'm sure he's quite used to it. In fact, this is perhaps one of the calmest faces we've seen of our onboard so far today.
Yeah, Chris just looking very, very calm, especially with those headlights in the rear view camera like that. It can be very, very distracting, but Chris not paying any attention to it whatsoever.
Drivers have been dealing with a lot. And as we hop on board with Sadal now, here in 9th place, that's Dyer in front of him. These drivers about half a minute back from our leaders. So a credit to this field, especially those front runners. In a 45-minute race, they've not lost all that much. They've kept this relatively tight.
Yeah, they certainly have. The only ones that have really been able to pull away here are Amarim and Pies. And even then, it's certainly within striking distance. We're not seeing the sort of double-digit mega leads that we saw in some of the earlier series out here today. Amarim working his way by the 33 right now. That's some lap traffic in front of him. So he's going to get on by there. Clock ticking down under a minute and a half to go.
Which means white flag will be next time by for Raphael. Chris Pye is a handy 5 seconds back from him. And as you mentioned, That's where it starts to get pretty distant at 8 seconds to leave Peterson. But otherwise, then you got a whole bunch of cars not split by much. Braun on your screen didn't really wrap things up in the way he was hoping to. Multiple offs here at the end, including spins that were unforced errors.
Yeah, a few unforced errors there, really sending him back into the field, but he's still locked into a little bit of a battle there. Craig in front of him and Panic in front of them. So working their way down there through Charlotte's Web. Is our leader getting ready to cross over the start-finish line. I believe that'll be white flag for Raphael Amorim.
It is indeed. So Raphael has one to go. Barney through the dark, trying to furiously wave that white flag at him so he knows he doesn't have to do another one around. All he has to do is be smooth from here on out. With an impressive bit of pace, Amorim is going to be taking the victory as opposed to Jason Lisner, who won last time. Believe Peterson will be the only one to get podiums in both races. Justin Sang was close to being able to do that, but he's fallen back to 5th after the traffic. And fastest lap for Amorim is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else around him.
Yeah, to the tune about 0.5 of a second there. So a big, big run for him. Kudos to Raphael. He'll be able to take those bonus points there. We watch him as he makes his way through those sweeping chicanes, headed into turn 12 for the last time, Joe.
A victory in the PCA Series, Sim Racing Series presented by Hagerty Motorsports is hard to come by, but coming by one in the Pro class rather, is even more difficult to get to. But today, Raphael Amorim is going to claim another one, and it's victory here in Alabama for the 16 car.
It is indeed a pretty dominant drive for him, and it looks like Chris Pies will be able to cross over the line here in P2, so a good drive from him. Peterson, as you said, able to hold on to that last podium position.
Not many battles. They've all kind of evaporated here on the last lap, but Jordan Dyer went from 15th to 8th, so kudos to him. We're watching Braun on screen. Can he get his spot back? He's battling with Craig and Panic. Both, I believe, at least Panic, have had problems too. He gets close to the rear bumper. He's going to try it into 16. He gets to the inside of of Craig, but he doesn't get the exit off the corner. Dave will keep that 14th spot. Braun has to settle for 15th.
Almost there for Chris Braun, but able to get it done. Ahead of him is Dave Craig. Good racing all the way around here, as that's the 16th place. Greg Fullwood crossing over the line right now, waiting for, I believe that's Jean-Paul Leno coming across right now.
Yep, Joe Stiffel will be the last one in 18th. So 19th from on down either did not finish or found themselves lapped by the leader here. But considering his pace, I don't think they need to be all that ashamed. Let's go through the finishing order and tell you how it wound up. And we mentioned it, Raphael Amorim was your victor ahead of Chris Pies by about 5.5 seconds. So not the biggest gap, but at least should have been comfortable as he brought it home. Leif Peterson going from 5th to 3rd, probably shaking his fist in celebration from that one. Rutsitas was 4th after starting in 10th. Then it was Sang, who was very unhappy with the lapping cars. Wonder if he's going to have a little chat on the Discord after that. He lost a podium and wound up in P5 as James Huth was 6th, followed by Schum in P7. Jordan Dyer, I mentioned a big climb up to P8, a similar distance up the order for Siddall, up from 16th to 9th, and then Waltman was P10.
In 11, it was Derwin Kostanek, followed by Chris Walsh on that drive back up through the field following an early penalty. Todd Panic came home in 13th, followed by Dave Craig, who held off Chris Braun for 14th and 15th, respectively. Greg Fullwood was 16th, followed by Jean-Paul Leno in 17th. Joe Steipel was in 18th, the last car in the lead lap. Julian Velez and Rick Reisenberg were 19th and 20th.
Dewey Kang was 21st with Joe Sinclair in 22nd. There was Fonseca, P23, last one lap down. Campbell was 24th, and Yao was 25th. And then you get to the DNFs of the day, Tak Chen, the 770, and Cugliari. As we head off to our interviews now, I believe we've got our winner with us. Raphael, congratulations. You put it on the pole just like we saw in the club race and took the victory with that. But it looked like you had things pretty decently under control out there. While Chris was close at times, you finished about 5 seconds ahead. So are you feeling pretty good about how things went?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been a great race, and it's a difficult trying to keep Chris behind you. He's just so fast, and he definitely kept me on my toes. And I'm tired now. I need to take a bit of a break. It was pretty difficult trying to stay ahead, but it was a fun race. I love the track. Barber is one of my favorite tracks, so pretty happy to kind of get the victory at one of my favorite places.
I'm glad to finally meet someone else who is a big fan of this place. Usually I don't seem to come across them often. That said, did you know coming in that you would have this sort of advantage because of your fondness for it?
Well, I wasn't really sure. I hadn't done a lot of practice, so I didn't have a good reference to where I was. It's a track that I'm familiar, so I was comfortable right from the beginning because I knew the track, and I actually won these season 5 at the club class at Barber as well, so I have some good experience and happy history with it. So I felt good about coming in, but obviously there's some great drivers, and you never know.
This will add to your win tally after your 3 from Series 6. So what's your ultimate goal here? Is the championship on your mind?
Well, hopefully. I think the ultimate goal is just to have fun. This is a great group of guys, and it's just such a privilege to be able to run every Friday and just have fun. So that's ultimately why I'm here, but obviously it would be pretty nice to win the championship. I've been second place before, so it would be nice to get first place.
There's only one more step to go. Congratulations. Is there anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Well, first, the sponsors and everyone that the team, that steering committee that organizes this. It's a lot of fun, and I know there's a lot of hard work for our volunteers. Obviously, you and the podium team, and as always, my wife. She's the one that supports me through all of this.
I love when drivers give a shout out to their loved ones like that, as that was our winner, Raphael Amorim. And I believe next up is second place finisher, and DJ has eyes on Chris Pies.
I do indeed. We're just going to keep those puns running as long as you have the googly eyes there, Chris. But a good race for you out there today. Relatively quiet, kind of running in a class of your own out there.
Yeah, it was a kind of a lonely race. The nighttime was, I guess, my pal there. For a while, I couldn't really see my markers very well, and I was noticing I was missing some apexes, so I was more keeping the car under me and trying to at least keep Raphael in sight. But man, he's quick. Kudos to Raphael. He ran a flawless race.
Indeed. Obviously, a little bit of heartbreak at Silverstone last time out, a little bit of a rough run. But with the P2 here, are you starting to look for the championship?
Yeah, we'll see what comes by. I know I'm not going to be able to make all the races this series, so unfortunately, I think that Silverstone finish is going to have to count for me. But we'll just keep trucking, keep pulling down, hopefully more podiums going forward, maybe a win or two, and see where the points shake up at the end of the season.
Well, we'll be watching for it for sure, Chris. Anybody you'd like to thank for this P2 here today?
I'd just like to thank my family that puts up with me in this crazy hobby of mine, and everybody out there, and especially the Zone Group Central, you guys, great. And all the people that attend my classrooms, appreciate it. You guys are getting really fast, and it's definitely showing week after week. And finally, Podium, you guys put on a great show every week, so thank you for what you do.
Well,
thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Chris. It's always a joy to cover you guys out there. That's your second place finisher, Chris Pies. And now, Taylor, I believe you have caught up with our third place driver here today, Leif Peterson.
I certainly have caught up with Mr. Consistency himself, Leif Peterson, with a third place finish. Leif, explain to our viewers a little bit about how the difficulties of this night racing at Barber is different compared to what we saw at Silverstone.
Well, Silverstone's a F1 track, so you have a lot more runoff and a lot more forgiveness. Here, you've got grass and guardrails on each side of you, big curbs, and try not to drive by braille, but sometimes these things sneak up on you. So it was pretty exciting there at the end.
Certainly was. I mean, you are going up there trying to catch up to your teammate, of course, of Christopher Pies, and battling for this opportunity to pick up another win. With the championship, you are a champion already with Series 5. Do you think we could see another championship come out of you this season, Leaf?
It would take a lot of luck. And if I pay the hackers enough money, they'll keep breaking the computers of the faster guys.
Ooh, this definitely sounds interesting. Scandalous even, Leaf. Well, Leaf, before we let you go and celebrate this podium finish, who would you like to give a thank you to?
I want to thank, of course, Doug, James, all the instructors. Shout out to my teammates in real life, Racer Motors, Imperial Motorsports, and Sim, and our endurance racing team with Pies and Kikas and Billy. Yeah. And all the guys that come out every week and make this so much fun and join Discord and make it a doubly good experience.
That is Leif Peterson rounding out your podium finish here tonight. There, Joe?
Indeed, which will both close up our show and our week here for PCA Sim Racing Series. We'll see you next time at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Challenge and Sport classes. It all kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, October 13th, live here on Podium Esports. Thank you so much to our title sponsor, Hagerty, as well as the series sponsors, which of course is Michelin and Porsche. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ Taylor, Rachel, Ryan, Eric, and Dougie. And none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, James Pike, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scaramuza, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing presented by Hagerty Motorsports. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.